So all we got to do now is remove the timing cover and all the pulleys on this side, and remove the chain, and then we can take off the cams, get to the head bolts, remove the head, and then we can inspect the engine. Now the only problem I have right now is that I don't have an engine support bar to hold my engine, and to remove the timing cover we have to remove this motor mount right over here. And basically if I remove that motor mount and nothing else is supporting the engine, then it's just going to be hanging off the transmission. I know it looks like a mess, but all I did is remove the power steering pump reservoir and the coolant reservoir. And the coolant reservoir, I didn't disattach any of the coolant lines just yet, because it is full of coolant. And power steering pump, I don't know, it's pretty simple. All it was is just 2 bolts for me, at least. You'll locate them. One goes into here, that's the coolant one. Undo that, and the coolant reservoir is free. Basically you just slide it off these prongs, and then this is the engine mount right here. So I already cracked these 2 loose, and I'll show you what I rigged up, since I don't have an engine hoist or a engine support beam. I basically have my jack here and a piece of wood there so it doesn't bend or scratch the block at all. It's kind of hard to explain because it's just not normal to do this, but basically it's on the frame of the engine. It's not on the crankshaft, it's not on the girdle. We'll try not to be on the girdle, and yeah, it seems to be working. So that's just going to support a lot of the short block's weight. Alright, so got those 2 nuts off right over here. I had to use a torque bar for that, and because these are like really tight. And then these ones, my torque bar couldn't fit down there, so I added an attachment to my impact. You're gonna need some type of torque bar or impact gun to get these out. These are extremely tight as well, but I got both of those out, and that frees the motor mount. Just gotta wiggle it a bit and it'll pop right out. All we need to do now is remove the timing cover, and to remove the timing cover we got to remove that pulley right there, that pulley right there, that's the alternator. I believe we can let the alternator stay there, and the main crank, that guy right there. You're gonna need an impact for that as well. So yeah, you're gonna take that pulley off, and then that gives us access to all the timing cover bolts that are behind the pulleys, which we already took out 4 at the bottom there. There's 3 big bolts right there that go into the block that supports your motor. But yeah, and then there's also some in the middle right there where we need to get. But once I get the pulleys off and all the timing bolts, I'll give you an update. The pulleys are extremely difficult to remove the bolts, because every time you try to remove it, the pulley will turn with the bolt. So what I did here is got some vice grips, tighten them onto the pulley right there, and it'll move back and forth, but it'll stop right there because it hits the block. And that way you can get your 12mm wrench on the bolts, and then to get them crack them loose, you kind of have to like hit it quickly and give it some torque. So like just bang it really quickly, and then it should crack the nuts loose. Alright, I finally got the timing cover off. It took a bit because I stripped one of the bolts that are right between the frame and the block, so I couldn't really get in there with the ratchet to get the bolt out, and it was stripped, so I couldn't really use a wrench. So that was a pain, but I finally got it out. Start soaking your exhaust manifold in PB Blaster, because that's gonna be super seized. But since timing is off, all we gotta do right now is take out the guides on both sides, and this will loosen up the chain. Once the chain is all loose, we get it off the cams, take off the cam caps, take out the cams, and then the head comes off. Chain's gone, guide's gone, tensioner's gone. pretty self-explanatory, honestly. Just take out the bolts that are holding it to the block. I did notice something. I don't know what it is. It's kind of worrying me a bit. I don't know if you guys see that. There's green coolant coming out of the head where one of the timing plate bolts go to, and it's dripping out, and I don't know if that's normal. I'm worried that the head might be cracked and it's coming through there. So I don't know, we'll take off the head and inspect it. So right now what I'm gonna do is remove exhaust manifold, or just the 4 bolts that go onto the turbo, and then we're gonna leave the exhaust manifold attached to the head, but just disattach it from the turbo. And then once we do that, take off all these caps right here, take out the cams, and then undo those head studs. We got the exhaust manifold studs out right there. It wasn't too hard actually, just make sure you have a torque bar. Now we're gonna remove the camshafts. In the way we remove the camshaft, Mazda's manual says that you move from the outside inwards. So we're gonna start loosening the outside, this 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you try to do it in like a 2 to 3 step sequence. So half turn here, half turn there, half turn, and then you go full. You get the point, right? Got all the cams out. I think all we have left to do is loosen the head studs and pull the head off. Make sure you unhook this EGR stuff over here. And oh yeah, coolant hoses. Just undo that one, undo the one below, undo this one as well. And I don't think there's anything else that's attached to the head. There's a loosening sequence for the cylinder head as well. You gotta make sure you follow that sequence, or else you will warp your head. Just search it up on your Mazdaspeed manual. Loosen here first, there, working your outside inwards, and you want to do 2 or 3 passes again. This one, and then that one, and work our way inwards. And we're gonna do 3 passes. So half turn here, half turn there, half turn there, half turn there. You get the point. Just follow that, and you shouldn't warp your head. So it's been a few days. Been about 2 days since I've worked on it because I couldn't find the right socket for my head studs. I have aftermarket head studs. They're ARP L19 head studs. So after a bit of research and been able to balance work and school, I figured out that the head studs are 16 millimeter 12-point socket. So got the new socket, ready to take them out. So we got all the head studs out. What's going to be different with what I'm doing to a stock Mazda is that on a stock Mazda you're going to have head bolts, not head studs. So you're going to get entire bolts that are coming out of your head. With me, I'm only getting these little nuts off the studs. So traditional Mazdaspeed have like super long head bolts. And then all you gotta do is loosen them and then pull them out. Mine, my studs stay in, and then I gotta lift my head straight off. Now, I think that the head is good to pull off since all the studs are out. I just have to make sure I disattach all these coolant lines that go to the head. I believe that's it. Besides, right, we already took out the exhaust studs. And I think it's just good to slide off now. I tried lifting up the head. It lifts up on this side. I can feel it kind of lifting up, but on this side, it's still kind of stuck. And then I realized that the alternator has a top bolt that goes into the cylinder head. So we're gonna take that bolt out and hopefully it's free. So I got all the nuts and washers out. The way I got the washers out was I just put a magnet down there and then it just attached to the washers, and then you pull them right out. I'm having trouble lifting the head up because it's kind of heavy. I'm here all by myself, and I thought leaving the exhaust manifold on would be kind of easier because I'd have something to grab, but except my exhaust manifold only have one stud still stuck in it. The rest of the studs came out, but this one stud stayed in. So you kind of had to lift the exhaust manifold up at the same time you're lifting the head studs. I mean the head up because the head studs. So what I'm trying to do is, you can actually take out these head studs. I totally forgot. It's just an Allen. Hold on, let's focus. You can see it's an Allen socket can turn them out, and they're actually not even torqued in. They're originally, when you install them, you're only supposed to finger tight them into the short block. So they're pretty easy to take out. Just loosen them and pull them right out, and then it should make it easier for me to lift the head. So I got all the head studs out. Hopefully this time it'll actually, like, I can pull the head off. So this is what it looks like. These are ARP L19 head studs. Way overkill for what I built for, but I was like, we're gonna only hopefully build it once. So I chose something really strong. The side with longer threads goes into the block, and the side with shorter amount of thread goes into your cylinder head, and that's where your nut goes onto. There's one stubborn bolt right behind the exhaust manifold. It's like a bracket for the oil return for the turbo, and it mounts right onto the head. So what I had to do is, you're gonna have to remove your exhaust shields. I only removed one because these bolts are like super rusted and seized onto the exhaust manifold, so it's a pain. It's hard area to get to. So anyways, I'm being lazy. I don't want to take off the back exhaust shield, so I can't really put in an extension and ratchet out this bolt. Just taking my time, going back and forth like this, literally.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine. You're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But like I was saying, you gotta make sure you take out that bolt. Let me see if I can get a clear shot from this angle. That's the freaking bolt that we need to take off. It's a bracket for the oil return line. So once we get that off, we're gonna try it. Finally got the cylinder head out, and I'm happy because I don't really see anything wrong yet. My pistons don't look terrible. I don't even know, like, they look fine to me. Like, I was told that's a little bit of detonation when it blows off all the carbon in that area. That's what the engine building shop was saying, that it's all pitted and all this, but that's just carbon. Like, I'm not too sure what's going on here. Cylinder walls, they're not scored, not ruined at all. They still have a cross hatch in it. The only thing that I did notice is that cylinder walls look a little bit burnt. Like, it's all dark and stuff right over here. I'm not too sure why it's like that. I can see on this one. Yeah, you see it's all dark brown spots. Kind of looks like rust, but it's like burnt. I don't know. I don't see any cracks or pits. This is just all carbon, by the way. I tried cleaning it as best as I can. There is a little bit of scratches on it, but I think that's from my Scotch-Brite pad. It did a little light scratches, nothing that I can feel with the fingernail, so it's not scored. Let's look at the cylinder head. Cylinder head doesn't look off, it looks normal. Everything looks normal to me, so once we pull out the pistons and we can actually get a better look at them, then we'll figure out what's causing the low compression. Also, make sure that you lubricate everything with oil or else it will start oxidizing and you'll get little rust marks. Like you can see my cams, like they're getting, I don't know why it's just a dot, but I'm gonna make sure I lubricate everything so nothing starts oxidizing. Do your cylinder walls especially, just grab a little bit of oil in your palm and just do like little wraparounds and make sure everything's lubricated so it doesn't start to oxidize. We gotta pull out the entire short block now because the engine builder wants to inspect it to investigate if it was their fault or if it was tune related, because they suspected that the top of the piston crowns were going to be pitted and destroyed, and they actually look perfectly fine. So they want to investigate it further to determine what exactly caused the engine to lose compression. So I have to take out the short block and give it to them. This is Nick. What did you say that for? Alright, so Nick and I, we got the engine out.
And Kayla too. Kayla's helping.
Kayla's on the FaceTime. She's helping us get it out. But basically all we did is remove the bell housing bolts, and then there's 3 bolts that connect the axle, I guess, to the block, which is odd.
One like and Mason will buy a BMW.
Oh, yeah, Nick's a big German guy. But anyways, we got the block disconnected from the trans, and we just got to pull it out. Yeah, this isn't the proper way to freaking pull out an engine. Do not do this.
Be nice.
What, she likes the speed?
What year is that? Like 2009?
2007.
2007.
Mason, you're selling it, right?
Maybe. Why, she like it? She want to buy?
Hey, Kayla, you want to buy a new car?
What the hard part is your clutch slides onto that shaft. So you kind of want to wiggle it. We wiggled it up and down the block with the jack, and we slowly slid it out from the transmission, and then we're able to drop it fully down. I'm gonna jack up the car a little bit higher, and then I'm gonna try to roll this thing out of here. And that's how you pull out an engine without an engine hoist. So we finally got the engine block out. Was it difficult? I mean, I feel like it's definitely going to be more difficult than if you had a proper engine hoist. I don't have the jack right underneath of the block. I have a wood 2x6 that's right underneath, so there's no metal to metal, and there's nothing warping or scoring up the underside of the block. Oh, it's not even in focus. My first Mazdaspeed motor right here, it has melted cylinders, so we're gonna remove it off this stand and load up the new block. Now this is yellow because this is a ACT clutch kit. Has a light flywheel and a 6-puck clutch. Take off the pressure plate, and you have these I think 12 mil bolts all around it. Loosen those. If you're doing it with a ratchet and not an impact, it's gonna be hard because, like the pulleys, it's gonna spin as you try to loosen. So I got my impact here. You're gonna go and a star pattern and trying to remove them to try not to warp your pressure plate or your flywheel. So diagonal from that one, diagonal from that one, diagonal from that one, etc. This is what a blown head gasket looks like, a very severely one. Look at that, it like melted right through, and that's like, this thing would need to be re-sleeved. So I think I'm done today. Got the block out, got it on its stand. We're gonna strip the oil filter off and PCV system just so it's a clean bare block. And I'm gonna load it up in my car, bring it to the engine shop, and they're gonna diagnose the problem and see if they'll warranty it. Let's pray they'll warranty it. If not, more content for you guys, and I get to rebuild this thing.